This is Mario Andretti, and you are listening to Below the Yellow Line.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Below the Yellow Line podcast. We are doing the best that we can over these last few weeks to promote as many short tracks across this country as possible. And we hope at least that we are doing that again today with Bryce Hall, the general manager of the Arrowhead Speedway in Colcord, Oklahoma. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are y'all?
We are doing great. Emily, if you want to go ahead and start with our some questions.
Yeah, so we're so excited to have you on the show, but we're kind of curious. How did you get into your job?
Sure. So I've just been in motorsports pretty much all my life. I grew up there in northeastern Oklahoma in Salina High Bank Speedway, another dirt track there near Pryor, Oklahoma. I grew up there. My dad built race cars. That's kind of how I got into racing, and then the track closed down for a few years, and it opened back up in 2011. And then in 2012, the announcer at the time in 2011 became the general manager, and they were looking for an announcer. And then that position came open, so I tried that, worked there for a few years before going to work with the United States Modified Touring Series and the United States Racing Association, and from there has just always found a place to be in operations and in the racing world, and got the opportunity to come home off the road with the USMTS and USRA, and Willie Gamble, the owner there, we kind of visited and just worked something out to where he needed somebody to pretty much run the track because he's got so many other obligations, and then here we are. We were able to open Memorial Day weekend of this year, and it's been a great success ever since then.
Well, it sounds like racing has been kind of ingrained in you from the start, and that's what we hear from a lot of these short track owners, promoters, GMs, and that's great because they know, and growing up in the sport, how much it means to a lot of people, and I think that helps you kind of do your job better, and especially with the relationship with the fans. What is your relationship like with fans, and what is your relationship with the drivers that go out there and compete every weekend?
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, I'm able to maintain good relationships with everybody in the sport. A lot of these, a lot of the racers I grew up around because several of them raced there in Salina, and even when the track was Flint Creek Speedway and West Siloam Speedway before that. I've always known the racers, and then same way with the fans. The racing community there is really tight knit, and as much opportunity as I get to stop and visit with people before I head up to the tower to do the race directing, I'm able to do that. But I think in my role there as race director, that's what keeps me in constant communication really with the racers. On the fan side of it, I try to make that attempt as much as I can to talk to them, and I'm always open. Anybody sends me a message on Messenger or anything like that, I'm definitely willing to take a few minutes to visit with them and see what they think could make their experience better, or just see what they have to say overall.
That's awesome. What is your favorite moment so far in doing your job at the track?
Well, that's a tough question. I think the biggest reward was just getting the gates open this year. It was a complete undertaking because although, I'd said West Siloam Speedway or Flint Creek Speedway, really the only thing about the place is the location's the same. Other than that, the owner there leveled the track in 2020, and it had kind of been a long construction process up to this point. So I think that was probably the biggest moment of the year was even just the practice night, was finally having it to where people could come there. Other than that, something that does kind of stand out, it's not a racing moment, but we had a fireworks show there. And I don't think I've ever seen so many happy people at a racetrack. We had a really good fireworks show, and that made it rewarding, when you get in that midsummer grind of weekly racing and things like that, to see everybody enjoyed that fireworks show. There were a lot of smiles on that night.
I'm sure there are. Fireworks and racing are two things that always make people happy, but especially fireworks. They're a little bit more universal, I guess, than racing is. And you talk about the track kind of being different than what it used to be, but what makes the track unique? What makes Arrowhead Speedway Arrowhead Speedway?
I think there's several things. It's a brand new facility, so we have a ton of new amenities. We've got something as simple as the LED lights and being able to do the LED light show similar to what Knoxville does. That's something that not a lot of places do yet. It's just new technology. But I kind of refer to it as a new place, but an old place at the same time. It had a fan base that was there and established, and racers that were there and established, but it's also a brand new facility. So, there's just the intangibles, the things you can't describe. I'm partial to it, and I've been to a lot of racetracks, so I think I can back it up a little bit. But we have an environment there that there's just certain things that you can't necessarily pin down, but it always seems like a big show, no matter what we're doing there at the racetrack.
That's awesome. You touched on this a little bit with telling us about how the track's been redone and whatnot, but is there anything else you can tell us about the history of the track?
So I don't know the exact year. The 1980s was when the track was originally built, and then it operated on and off up through 2017. And then in a few years, there was a few seasons there that had gone idle, and then Willie Gamble and his wife Elizabeth purchased the track in 2020, leveled it sometime during 2020, and then from there have just built the track. Aside from that, I don't know a lot of specific history of it. I mean, I've attended several races over there. It was a staple a lot of times on Sunday night racing throughout throughout the 90s and early 2000s. But there is a loyal fan base there. I know there is a lot of race fans in that immediate area.
Well, the good news is it sounds like you guys are building a whole new history, and history that hopefully will be learned about in that area and across this country for a long time. Tell us where we can find the track, both physically and on the internet, but tell us where we can come see you guys race.
Yeah, absolutely. The racetrack's located in Colcord, Oklahoma. It's on Oklahoma Highway 412, 5.5 miles west of the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. So it's easily accessible from northwest Arkansas as well as Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're about between 60 and 70 miles from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and just under an hour from that northwest Arkansas area. Like I said, right there on the highway, conveniently located on the north side of Highway 412. Online, arrowheadspeedway.com. We've got a great website. And then, of course, on social media, we're active on Facebook. We've got an Instagram and a Twitter, and I can admittedly say that we need to probably improve our presence on both of those, but we're really active on Facebook. And then, like I said, of course, arrowheadspeedway.com.
Well, thank you for that. And you talk about it being so close to Arkansas and Tulsa. This is, I guess, more Emily's home track than mine. Mine's, I guess, technically the Batesville Speedway in Locust Grove, Arkansas. But it's a track that we're very close to, and a track that a lot of hardcore race fans are close to as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it, and we wish you and your whole team there at Arrowhead the best of luck for the rest of this year and into the future as well. It seems like you guys are building a lot of good stuff there.
Well, thank you so much for having us on, and I'll tell you the same that I've told everybody else. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to do a podcast or anything like this to promote racing, whether it's our racetrack or racing in general. It helps all of us, so I appreciate your efforts as well.
Absolutely. That's what we're trying to do, get the word out about racing across this country, but also short tracks as well.